Kalimera, kalispera, kalinikta. No matter where in this wild, wacky, and sometimes wonderful world you might be, thank you for making the Highbury Squad part of your day. We are back, and we're doing something a little bit different. Oh, kids, it's going to be a long, hot summer. Buckle up. Let's rock and roll.
Mind the gap between the train and the platform. Please stand clear of the discussion doors. The next stop is Highbury Squad.
Indeed, back. I'm hoping that my internet will hold on the island of love, the birthplace of Aphrodite. Speaking of love, one of my favorite guys is back. Poty, welcome back to Squad Central, son.
Big up to everyone. Hope you're all good. Big up to all the squaddies in the house. Love it here on the Highbury Squad. And thanks for having me, Soph. I know that you're not in your usual place. You're obviously living it up in the sunniness of Cyprus. It's actually really hot here in England, actually, as it goes. I think it's hot around the world at the moment. And I'm trying to keep cool, man, because I haven't been too well the last few days. I've had COVID, which I didn't think existed, but actually does exist still. So it's rife again, people. If you're in London or if you're around, then make sure that you're looking after yourself and doing what you used to do 5 years ago, because apparently it's everyone I know has got it. My mate's just texted me now saying that he's now got it as well. So everyone's got COVID again. Unbelievable. Let's hope we don't go down that road again. But big up to everyone that's here.
I'm sorry that you haven't been well, Dan. It's really weird. My sister, literally before I came on air, sent me a picture of a COVID test here in Cyprus, and she's got it. So, yeah, it really sucks, doesn't it? I can't believe it's rearing its ugly head again. But, yeah, one thing's for sure, we ain't going in no lockdown this time.
I was just going to say, it won't be as bad as all them years ago, which you look back now 5 years ago and think, wow, really, what was all that about? It was mad, wasn't it? So, yeah, let's hope that everyone who does have it is okay. And we're just saying off air that I can't believe it's been over a year now since Super Kev. It's absolutely crazy. It really is.
Yeah.
It has gone that quickly. Me and Lee did a show today and we're speaking about it. And it was a bit of a strange day yesterday for a lot of people, obviously Father's Day being one. And for those that no longer have fathers with them, I hope you got through the day and remembered as best you could. And obviously Super Kev was remembered yesterday. And you know what? By you know, fair play to all of the clubs putting out what they put out a year to the day. I thought that was quite special, really. And I think it just shows how much of a special guy he was in relation to Arsenal, Everton, West Brom, you know, Forest and all the clubs he played for. So, yeah, man, it's crazy to think that it's been a year and how quickly that year has gone. So,
yeah, I mean, it was a really weird day yesterday. And I know that, you know, I was communicating with Kev's sister and it was a tough one. You know, the firsts are always the hardest. And, you know, for Ty and Kyle as well, like their first Father's Day without their dad. It was really it was a difficult day. I found myself quite solemn, but then again, I saw a post. I don't know if you remember, but we had the Mikey Pooley on the show a few years ago on an episode of Talented Gooners. And Mikey is like the blind footballer, and his dream was to always play for England. And when he was on Talented Gooners, he came on with his dad and Kev was so blown away by him. And Mikey I wrote a note to him because he just made the England team, the England blind team. And I was really proud of him. He's a Greek Cypriot boy as well. So it's a big deal for, you know, us. And I said to him, do you remember when you were on the show with Kev and he asked you, like, where do you want to go? Who do you want to be? And you told Kev that you wanted to play for England. And here you are. And then he went back and his dad clipped the show and posted it yesterday. And when I saw it, it just made me feel so much better, Dan. Yeah. Listening to Kev talk to Mikey and saying, you're a breath of fresh air. You inspire me, like the energy and the voice. And I reposted it and it really helped me yesterday just to kind of be reminded of why it is we all love him so much, you know?
Yeah, I've seen so many clips. Graham Brooks, big up to him. He messaged me one in a group that he's attached to, which was Kevin basically sending a video to someone saying, you know, like he did to so many people, you know, sort of a big up
Mhm.
video. And I know that lots of my friends got those when it was a kind of happy birthday post or whatever it be. So, yeah, man, it's crazy. I sometimes go to message him, you know, after a game, or if I hear some bit of Arsenal news, and you kind of, I still do that. It's weird. Even a year on, I still think, and I did that same with Claude. I used to speak to, like, you know, you get like a message and I send it still now to you and judges and Harry and people like that. And I used to do the same with Claude and Kev. And it's weird sometimes. You kind of go to do that and I think something's missing here. Of course, it's Kev and Claude, you know, the kind of
Yeah.
group has become not smaller because obviously other people join and stuff, but they were two of the people I used to always send stuff to and still go to now. So it's crazy, really crazy.
Yeah, it is. But yeah, and kudos to the clubs. I love the footage they put out. Arsenal, some of those goals, that left foot goal. I mean, left foot, right foot, wore the number 9 shirt, wore the number 7 shirt, wore every shirt. Didn't matter what shirt he wore. Kevin scored bangers. So, right. Here's what we're hoping, Dan. We're hoping that when the new season starts, we're going to have a team with a striker that scores bangers. So I was chilling yesterday, and I know a lot of you will be listening on replay. We're back. I didn't tell you we were going to be back until yesterday. So everyone who's listening on Apple and Spotify, please make sure you review the show and like it and subscribe. We're really, stoked to be back on the audio platforms as well. And thanks to Sports Social Podcast Network for being our partner. So I reached out to Dan. I said, Dan, I'm like, I want to do a show. I want you to share your starting 11. And then we talked about having like this one dream player that you want to sign. And then as I was thinking about it, literally, Dan said exactly what I was thinking, because he sent me a note saying, well, this is my 11, but it's a little bit rogue. And I said, well, I want to do a rogue versus real, get a whole bunch of podcasters on and get the listeners to share their starting 11. But also we live in a world now where rogue shouldn't be so unrealistic for Arsenal, Dan. Unfortunately, though, there's all of these parameters that apparently our club are the only ones that have to follow. I know I'm being facetious, but it is true. So Dan sent me his list, and I want you guys to get your list as well. And this week, we're also going to have Elliot from Arsenal Vision, Kenny Ken on, and Harry's going to come on, and everyone's going to share their real versus rogue list. And maybe along the week, as you listen to these guys in different sets, you might change your mind about a few things. So, Dan, why don't we get stuck in? Before we do, real quick, in a nutshell, transfer window doesn't close until September 1. I know some Arsenal fans have been in a panic. The reason why it opened early and for a short time was for the Club World Cup, which many fans don't care about. It's Gyökeres one day, it's Sesko the next day. Are we going after Rodrigo? He's in the Real Madrid team. It was Morgan Rogers. This is why I wanted to do a show like this, to have a little bit of fun and talk about like our starting 11s and how we would set up the Arsenal, versus focusing too much on the transfer window right now, which I know you're doing the morning show, but it's just a bit too much for me. I can't keep up.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on that isn't set in stone or cemented, I suppose, at the moment. The Club World Cup started, which hasn't really helped. And Liverpool and Manchester City have wrapped up some very good signings. And if I'm honest, I've made a lot of Arsenal fans worry. And I understand why, Sophie. I get it. I get why. I look at the signings and think, yeah, why aren't we going for Reinders? Why aren't we going for Florian Wirtz? Why aren't we looking at Ryan Cherky? So I kind of get it. On top of that, they've kind of got their fullbacks in already as well, in Ait Nouri and Kirkes and Frimpong. And Arsenal are still dilly-dallying over what striker we want. So I think there's an understanding and justification as to why Arsenal fans are frustrated. What I will say is that we can't go too over the top. And perhaps me and a few other people have been guilty of that in the past. And for those that are going over the top, I kind of understand why. I definitely understand the concern, because the last few transfer windows have been nothing short of abysmal, Sophie. And that goes from the summer of last year to the winter to the last 10 days of this first little mini window. to now, we're still not signed anybody. I think the last signing that Arsenal made was Calafiori, weren't it? So, or was it Sterling on loan on deadline day?
Sterling
That was
on
the
loan,
last
yeah.
signing that we made. So I find that very, very frustrating. So, Gunnar Russ, big up to Russ. He says we're dithering and we are the world champions of dithering. We don't quite understand what we're doing. So I think that's why people have got concerns. I don't know that it is that Arsenal haven't got a plan. I just think that Arsenal aren't executing their plan. And I think the Andrea Berta stuff is going to be very interesting because the link so far to players, only Gyökeres at the moment is the one that I'm looking at, Andrea Berta. I think that Arteta has been quite clear that he wants Zubimendi, that he wants Nico Williams, and that he wants Sesko. So if there's any names that come into Arsenal that aren't those names, I'll be looking at Berta. Anybody that comes in that the names I've just said, Berta's not been allowed to do anything. It's just been listen to Arteta. He tells you who you got to get, Andrea, and that's who you got to get. So it's going to be interesting as to which way it goes.
Yeah, I think also maybe there's a smart play too, because the Club World Cup is taking place, and a little bit like the World Cup and the Euros, there's a lot of talent that emerges from tournaments. I'm not saying that that's going to be the case, but there are going to be some players that may catch the club's eye. I'm also going to be patient because Manchester City did that business early because they wanted those players at the tournament. Liverpool, you could argue they're not in the tournament, but they're getting their business done exceptionally early. I'm going to hold out a little bit longer before I panic, Dan. And I think if Andrea Berta wasn't there, perhaps I would be in more of a panic and I would be thinking, here we go again. But because he is there, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. And also the other thing too is that if he doesn't have all the power, then what's the point of having him, right? What's the point in bringing someone of that ilk and that pedigree if you're not going to give them the power to kind of build Arsenal 3.0? Because Arsenal 2.0 was the Edu and Mikel project, and Arsenal 3.0 should be the Andrea Berta project. And, you know, he does have the means and the relationships and the kind of Rottweiler-esque ability to buy and sell players. And I just don't understand why the club wouldn't give him all the power. Of course, Mikel's got to have players that he wants and that will fit into the way he plays. But at the same time, we've seen what he's done with someone like Diego Simeone at Atletico Madrid. And to me, it would be a waste of a talent if you don't give him the power to kind of rebuild where we've maybe been a bit weak over the last few years. Yeah.
Look, Andrea Berta for me has to have the power. And if Andrea Berta doesn't have the power, I really don't understand the point of bringing him in. I just don't. And what's the point of having a sporting director if the manager's making all the decisions? That's what I will say. Does the manager need a sporting director? And that's what we'll find out this summer. I think he does, because I think Mikel Arteta's signings have been nothing short of abysmal, the majority of them. He's made 31, and there's about 8 that are good, which means over 20 of them have failed, or they've just naturally not been good enough, or they've gone back out on loan, or they've been sold to someone else. He's made some good signings. Yeah, I think he has, to be fair, but he's made some shocking ones. And it's time now to get Andrea Berta in to try and show him how it's done. Now, I'm not saying that he won't get any wrong. Andrea Berta's got some wrong players at Atletico Madrid. Some of them didn't work out. João Felix was one of them, but he spent 105 million and he managed to get money back for him somehow because he was terrible. But some of the flops that he made, he managed to sell them because he's good at selling players. So I think that's what we've got to see now, is buying and selling at Arsenal better, because it has been nothing short of abysmal. I mean, I'm looking at Zinchenko being sold for £10 million, they reckon, because he's on £180,000 a week. I mean, who the hell put him on that? And now we can't sell him. We bought him for 28 million, I think. We're going to sell him for 10 million. And he's 27 or 28, whatever he is. It's just poor business again. You know, it really is.
And I don't blame Berta for those things, because unfortunately all of that business was done before he got there. And I don't want him to be tainted with that type of brush, but you're absolutely right. We've got to be stronger. And we talk about this a lot, don't we? That our prowess in selling assets is and has been poor for a number of years. And that's something that the club needs to get better at, which is why I felt like this summer maybe we would lose maybe a couple of marquee players in order to kind of, take us to the promised land where we need to. And by marquee, I mean, of course, not Saliba and Saka, they're super marquee, but, Trossard, Thomas Partey, of course, there's players that are on contracts, there are players that can go for free. Again, we find ourselves in a situation where how much are you going to get? Jorginho's gone, he's done and dusted. You've got the loanees, the Lokongas of the world, and Reece Nelson and those types of players. And it just seems like we need to turn another couple of transfer windows before we have super assets to match Saliba and Saka and Odegaard and Timber, and Miles Lewis-Skelly now is going to be a huge asset, of course, who we hope is going to stay at the club. But that turnaround, Dan, isn't going to happen for another 2 transfer windows, I don't think. Not at that level where you're selling as well as Chelsea and Liverpool. And Chelsea and Liverpool sell young players for a shit ton of money. I just don't understand it.
Yeah, they got 28 million for Rhian Brewster from Sheffield United, Liverpool. They got about 20 for Jordan Ibe. They got money for Solanke. They got money for players like Danny Ings, who people did laugh at. They've sold for good money. They've sold players for good money that we are looking at. And Chelsea are even better at it, by the way. Yeah. Chelsea ended up, we give them Amari Hutchinson for free. They sold him to Ipswich for 25 million. What is happening here? We can't even get 10 for Zinchenko because some idiots put him on 150k a week. You know what Zinchenko was earning at Man City, Soph, don't you? A week.
Well, he wasn't earning 100 plus.
How much do you reckon he was earning?
I was going to say 60.
Yeah, I would have guessed around about 70. 20 grand a week is what he was on.
Is that Manchester true?
City. Yeah, I've checked it. I couldn't believe it. I thought it was a joke. I've checked it. 20 grand a week he was on at City, and he's somehow got 150 at Arsenal. How is that right, man? Martinelli, who's 23 and hasn't really achieved anything in football yet, is on 180. 180. What the hell is going on at the club? Honestly, who does these wages?
Well, this is the thing. This is why Manchester United have attracted players, right? They're in the doldrums, and Gyökeres supposedly said no to them, but they're paying players ridiculous amounts of money, and I think we've had to do that in order to get deals across the line. We always talk about Arsenal being a big club and being a club that's attractive and that we can attract the best players in the world. But once you set a tone with, and it started with Ozil really, and then Aubameyang, once you set that tone and Havertz, you are beholden to, that kind of fiscal line, because players are going to want more. Players are going to think that they deserve the same, they deserve equal. And this is kind of the sickness of modern football as well. Should anyone really be paid 400 grand a week to play football? I don't know. I mean, I don't think so. I think it's gotten a little bit crazy, but that's just the way it is. And unfortunately, we've kind of fell into this trap of overpaying players. I mean, even Sokratis and Mustafi and Kolasinac, they were overpaid. It's not just
massive.
Now. Yeah.
Massively. I mean, look, with Kolasinac, 175 a week or whatever it was. This has been going on for a long time. My problem is, are we now already in a new era, new phase, new youth project, putting these players on crazy wages already, and now we can't sell them? And this is my problem. They're all stuck here, so they're now all going to go on a free transfer. Why is Kieran Tierney going on a free? Why? He's a 27-year-old player who's got a lot to give. Zinchenko, 30 million pound player, Ukraine international. 10 million because his wages are high. Well, which numbskull put him on 180 a week, wherever it is? You know what I mean? This is the problem we got. And it's badly run.
Yeah, and I think a lot of football clubs, to be fair, are suffering from this kind of, monetization pandemic at the highest level. This Club World Cup thing is just a money grab. I don't know if you've seen any of the games. I've just seen it's already awful, right? There's nothing good about this until maybe you see. I didn't see the game against PSG last night. I have no idea. I was supposed to be at that game. It's in LA at the Rose Bowl, but I chose to stay here in Cyprus, and I'm really happy about that. No idea about it, Dan. I don't even know who won. Do you?
No,
Yeah.
no, no.
Exactly, and that's the thing. Players are being paid a shit ton of money. They're also being asked to do a lot more. Fans are being asked to pay a lot more. There's this competition that's going on in the States. I live there, and I don't even care about it, to be honest with you.
Well, if I'm
And
honest, I saw Bayern Munich won 11-0 against Auckland, and that was enough.
it was 7-0.
Whatever it
7-0
was.
when my cousins. Oh my god! All right, well,
My
look,
God.
let's get you down, the director of football at Arsenal. I have just given you it's 320 grand a week to be the director of football at the
Cheers.
Arsenal. Dan, okay, I'll get 20%. Your starting 11 for next season, and then kind of we talked about starters versus finishers when we were talking yesterday. Talk everyone through it. How do you want your Arsenal? What are you delivering to Mikel Arteta once that ball is kicked in August?
So when I sent it to you, it was obviously a very realistic 11 because I've got to put my hat on to say that I believe that Mikel Arteta has an understanding of what he wants this 11 to look like. Something I haven't done on top of this 11 is say who else I would bring in, because a lot of the players I'd bring in would actually be squad players, because I actually think the starting 11 is pretty good. But we don't have the cover, and that's something that we've been really lacking in the last couple of seasons. So if it's clear we need a striker, and it's clear the left-hand side needs sorting, but when everybody else is fit, we've got a pretty good side. Now, we do need cover to Saliba and potentially Ødegaard and Saka, but other than that, we're pretty much there. So if you look at the starting 11 that's realistic for the 25, 26 now, aren't we, season, it won't be too dissimilar to what we've seen of recent, like sort of last 12 to 18 months. But there will be a couple of positions that will definitely be upgraded upon, which I think is clear for everyone to see. Now, I've done one where it's gone a little bit more rogue and a little bit more of a kind of next level players, but the ones that I've tried to keep realistic, because I know we're not going to go and buy Messi's, Ronaldo's, Haaland's, and Mbappe's and Isak's, right? We've got to keep it realistic. Could do one like that if you wanted to, but let's be honest, it's not going to happen. We don't have 800 million to spend, right? So we've got to be realistic. So I've gone with a starting 11, which won't shock a lot of people, and I'm going to stick by that, and then maybe later we can talk a little bit about where I go a little bit more rogue, but we'll come to that. David Raya in goal. The reason I've stuck with David Raya is because I do think genuinely he's one of the players of the years up until I'd say the last maybe 2 months of the season, where I think he started to lose his head a little bit. I thought he started the season incredibly well, particularly double penalty saves against Atalanta, double saves against Villa. I thought he was very commanding, clean sheet, Golden Glove 2 or 3 years in a row now. He's been a really good goalkeeper. And if I'm honest with you, I don't think a lot of people wanted to see him in goal ahead of Aaron Ramsdale. I think you, me, Lee, we were all a bit confused as to why Aaron was kind of chucked out. But when you look back at that now, it totally was the right decision, because he's just an upgrade. It's not that Aaron Ramsdale was an absolute disaster and he was the reason that we weren't winning titles, because he was actually one of the positives as to why we were in that title race, particularly in 22-23 season. But I've got to be honest with you, David Raya has really, really stepped it up. I think his distribution's better. I think his attributes prove that he can be the modern-day goalkeeper. He's certainly important to how Mikel Arteta wants to play, specifically out from the back. If I was to say any criticism about how he can improve his game, though, Soph, and he absolutely will, I think he just needs to remember he's a goalkeeper. Because in the last few weeks of the season, he really was starting to have some problems with his positioning. I think at times he thought he was a Rio Ferdinand at centre-back as opposed to a goalkeeper. And there were certainly opportunities for, if the ball was to go wrong, that he could be lobbed quite easily. And we saw him rolling the ball out and putting his defence under pressure. You know, Crystal Palace is an example of that. Real Madrid, believe it or not, the only goal they did manage to score against us was from him rolling it out to Saliba, believing he had loads of time. So there's definitely some attributes of his game I think he needs to work on, mate. But I'm going to keep him in goal because I do believe that David Raya is one of the best goalkeepers in the Premier League in the last couple of years, to be fair. I don't quite put him in the same elite bracket as the likes of Alisson or Ederson. I think he's probably the next level down to that, along with the likes of Emi Martinez and co. But I do think he's right up there as one of the best goalkeepers in the league. So I'm going to keep him in goal. So that's David Raya. At right back, I'm sticking with Jurriën Timber. Now, Timber for me is and was the player of the year for Arsenal. I thought he was unbelievable. In everywhere that he went, home and away, he could play right back, left back. At the start of the season, he was playing left back and Ben White was at right back. I thought he was phenomenal there. Played at centre back a few times through cup games, Champions League games, and when needed. But at right back, I like Ben White. Trust me, I'm a big Ben White fan. But this guy is so much better. Like levels, mate. I have not seen anything like this kid for a long time. I already think he could be recognised and remembered as the Laurens and Lee Dixons of this world in the coming years. I think he is that good. And we've had some good fullbacks that aren't Lauren and Dixon, by the way. You know, I liked Eboué at right back. I liked Bakary Sagna. I thought that, you know, Bellerin had a couple of good years at Arsenal. Ben White, I've mentioned. But this guy is different level. So he's just an engine. He's a machine. For someone to come back from an ACL and to put in the consistent performances that he has, for me, he walks into the side. So Timber has to be in there. And I think there's only really Hakimi, maybe Trent. And then I'm struggling for who else is better than him. I've got to be honest. In the world, I'm talking about as a right back. I think he is that good. So, yeah, I think he's going to be remembered as one of the best right backs that we've had. So he walks in. So that's Rare in goal, Timber at right back. To kind of continue as I have consistently, I'm going to do the partnership, which I think is the best defensive partnership in Europe. Gabriel and Saliba. And I don't know how anyone can't want these two at the back. They complement each other. One of them is an unbelievable ball-playing centre-half. The other one is an absolute monster, colossus at the back. One that we've missed and people might disagree. Kivior has been great, totally agree. But Gabriel has been missed by his presence in the box for set pieces, offensively and defensively. The guy is ridiculously good. And it is fantastic news that he signed a new long-term deal because at the age of 27, 28, I think we've got somebody there who really can show some leadership qualities. If I had the armband myself, it would be headed towards him. A lot of people want it to be remained with Ødegaard. Some people want to give it to Declan Rice. I can understand and make cases for both of them. But I like this guy old school because he's in the face of Haaland. He's barking orders. He's telling people where to go. He's getting the game by the scruff of the neck. He's up at the referees shouting and screaming. He's got the respect to the dressing room and the players. Mikel Arteta has unbelievable kind of relationship with him. And do you know what? I'll say one thing more lastly. I think he's by far Mikel Arteta's best signing. By far, Gabriel. I think he's better than Rice. I think he's better than Ødegaard. I think he's been a better signing than the likes of just Timber I've just been mentioning. I think Gabriel has been there since day dot, and the improvement is ridiculous. He's no more bozo gene. He doesn't make any more crazy mistakes. He's a compliment to Saliba. The pair of them, I think, have been phenomenal. So far, so good. Then we go to left back. And look, I've got to be honest with you. I have been the most frustrated in this position in the reign of Mikel Arteta. That you can start with a brilliant left back in Kieran Tierney and then say, because he gets a few injuries, we now need to go completely different to Nun Tavares. We now need to go and get Zinchenko. We now need to go and get Calafiori. We need to make sure that Tomiyasu, Timber, Kivior, all these guys can play in the left back position. And then we find out that actually none of them are better than Kieran Tierney, other than a 17-year-old who's come through the youth academy. So as much as I do still feel like we might need another left back potentially, and if I went rogue, I would go and get one, which I'll tell you about soon. Lewis Skelly is the one. And I don't want to say that he's going to be our Ashley Cole because I think that would be going mad. But I will mention Ashley Cole in this bracket for this reason. Ashley Cole was not doing this at 17 at Arsenal. And that excites me. So the balls of this guy at 18, the strength of this guy, the physical attributes, the drive forward, the consistency, and the fearless confidence of this kid to say, right, not only am I going to in 6 months' time break through into the Arsenal first team, I'm going to play and hold down a position I'm not used to. I'm going to get called up to my international side. I'm going to play at left back for them, score on my debut, and drive forward and make Real Madrid look silly. And I've got the cojones to go and play in both them games. Listen to me. This is a serious talent, man. So I think he's going to hold down this position for now. Whether he's got a future in the midfield or not, I don't know. Right now, it looks like he's going to be a left back. Now, I would go and upgrade on that position personally if I went rogue, and I'll come to that whenever you want me to. But for me, Lewis Skelly right now is going to be the left back at Arsenal. Calafiori,
I think
serious
you
question
should
mark.
do. I think you should do your rogue as you go along.
Okay, let's do that. Let's do
Yeah.
that. So, Calafiori, huge question marks for me. I like his attributes going forward. I've not been convinced defensively. I think the guy looks very scatty. Very, very needs to calm down a little bit, in my opinion. We forget that he's 22, but then you can say on the other hand of that, Miles Lewis Skelly, 17, 18. Do I think he's got a future at Arsenal? Yes, but I'm only going to give him one more season. And why is that? Because he's injured all the time. And I've been told that when they get injured like Tierney, they've got to go. Well, this guy's played less than Kieran Tierney did in his first season. So, sorry, he's got to prove himself for me. So Lewis Kelly stays there. If I could sign a left back and you told me to go rogue, I'd go and get the best left back in the world. And I think he's gettable. And I think it's Nuno Mendes at PSG. I think he is unbelievable. I have seen so much quality in him. Now, I did a show with Tom Canton, must have been 3 years ago. And I was asked, what left back would I like? And I said, the Sporting Lisbon left back. I don't know his name. He's only about 18. And it was him. And he went to PSG. And I thought, oh, good. They always ruin players. It'll be terrible there. And he's just come up. Boss. I love him, man. I thought he was unbelievable against Arsenal. I thought him and Hakimi were so good at fullback. And he's the one I would absolutely love. I think he's a phenomenal talent. I don't know how much he'd cost, Soph. He'd be a hell of a lot of money, I imagine. And he'd probably want a hell of a lot of work. We'd probably be able to pay him what he wants a week, but I don't know if we'd be able to afford him because PSG would probably want 100 million. But if I could pick a left back right now, he's the one, mate. He looks unbelievable for me.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a good rogue. I think that's a great, if you're going to go rogue, go there, right? We saw his world-class play in the Champions League. I mean, to be honest with you, that entire PSG team, the transformation they've had under Luis Enrique when they got rid of the Parisian Galacticos and they went younger and, everyone keeps saying, well, their wage bill is the most in Europe. So, of course, they're going to win. Come on. They had Mbappe, they had Messi, they had Neymar. And here they are. They totally changed and switched their philosophy. Luis Enrique had total command of that team, tactically brilliant in the latter stages of the Champions League. And Mendes was just one of those players that you watched and you were like, oof, that is a special player. So if you're going to go rogue, I like this choice a lot.
Look, I love him. I think he's a brilliant left back. And I do think that he's going to be the one that people are speaking about. And I don't think left backs that we're that massively stacked with many in Europe. I really don't. I don't look at many and think, wow. I think Kirkes in the Premier League is a brilliant left back. And I think Liverpool have done well to get him. I actually think Aït-Nouri is a very good signing from Man City. But none of them are Nuno Mendes, mate. He's incredible. Absolutely phenomenal.
All right.
So that's that. Then we go into midfield. And this midfield balance has been frustrating me for quite some time. I genuinely think in the Arteta reign, the best trio so far has been Poty, Xhaka and Ødegaard. I genuinely thought that trio complemented each other. I thought that Poty was one of the best defensive midfielders in the league at the time, alongside Rodri and Casemiro, who was balling out at the time. Only for that one season, I might add, but he was good. I thought Granit Xhaka was one of Arsenal's best player and most consistent players, which is mad for me to say that I wanted him gone for so long, but I thought he was exceptional that season. And Ødegaard scored 15 goals and turned into an absolute maestro. So it proves that it can be done. I think we know what the trio is going to be. Zubimendi, Rice, Ødegaard. But I don't know that I'm massively happy about that still. And people might think that's mad for me to say. That doesn't include our best midfielder this season, which is Thomas Partey. I don't know what's happening with Partey. Yeah, so I've not put him in because I imagine he's leaving at the moment because he's not an Arsenal player as things stand. He's gone. So we've got to try and keep him, bring him back, so to speak, in inverted commas, or he's got to go. But this guy's coming in. Zubimendi's coming in, and I'll tell you the things I like about what this signing brings, and I'll tell you what I've got question marks about. Let me start with the question marks first. I've got question marks about his physical presence. I don't think he's a Thomas Partey in terms of his stature. I've got some concerns about how he's going to be an upgrade on Thomas Partey, because I think Thomas Partey's been phenomenal. But that's where it stops. The rest of them are pretty positive, if I'm honest. I've liked everything about his game. I think he gives us something a little bit different in terms of his passing. I think his accuracy and his vision is something that we haven't really had for quite some time. And he is kind of a replica of Xabi Alonso, which I think is basically a Jorginho, but on steroids, is what I would say. His passing accuracy is good. His balance in midfield is good. And I think he's going to give us some of those kind of line-breaking passes, which we haven't quite had as a 6, which means that Rice will then be in the 8. I don't like Rice in the attacking areas of the pitch, personally. I don't. I think Rice has always been defensively solid, an absolute destroyer, a beast on the ball, unbelievable off the ball. There ain't anyone in the league better off the ball than Declan Rice, in my opinion. I think he's incredible off the ball. So he starts. There's no doubt about that. He absolutely starts for me. But if I'm going rogue, Sophie, which you said I could do, I'm not playing Rice or Ødegaard in their positions that Arteta plays them in. And I'll tell you where I'm playing them both. I'm actually bringing in someone to the midfield trio that isn't Zubimendi. Now, I'm happy if we buy Zubimendi, by the way, and have him as a squad player. Not that he'll want to be. I'm not saying it's a bad signing. But I actually wouldn't sign Zubimendi. I actually would have Rice in the 6. I would have Morgan Rogers and Ødegaard in my midfield. Morgan Rogers at Villa Park looked unbelievable. But I actually think Martin Ødegaard might be that kind of left attacking 8. I think he might be the guy who knits it together. I don't think he is the proper 10. I think Martin Ødegaard might be the Bernardo Silva, not the Kevin De Bruyne. And I think if we was to allow him to drop a little bit deeper, which, let's be real, so if he does most of the games anyway, you might see the old Martin Ødegaard. I think the left-hand side is where he needs to be put more. We need someone to be threading balls through to a Martinelli outlet, or somebody hopefully upgraded on Martinelli. We need our left-hand side to tick. And I think if you want to put that together, he's one of the guys to put over there, right? And then that leaves the attacking midfield option safe for a player that I think has been unbelievable this season for Aston Villa. And that, of course, is Morgan Rogers. I've been so impressed with him. So from the day I saw him, I thought, is that Jude Bellingham or is that Morgan Rogers? Because I didn't know much about him. So if I'd heard that he come from Borough and he was the Man City Youth Academy kid, Billy told me a lot about him, how good he's been for Villa. And I thought, yeah, that sounds good. But he's a championship player. Again, this proves why you can find some gems in the championship, because he was brilliant for Borough. He's come over at Villa. He's waltzed into their first team and he's become one of their best players. The guy's driving forward and his energy in midfield is exceptional. I've got a lot of time for the goals and assists that he's got. And I think he'd be a wonderful... It wouldn't be a goosebumps signing, like Turkish said the other day with Lee. I heard them having a bit of a debate about it.
He wouldn't be a goosebump signing?
No, I don't think he would. Like a Florian Wirtz or an Isak would be. I think he's just below that, but I don't know what the word is before goosebumps are excited, but he's basically in between that, right? So that for me would be where I'm at with Morgan Rogers. I think he'd be an excellent signing, Soph.
Would he make the hairs on the back of your neck stand?
Maybe that's the kind of one he would do, yeah. I like him. I don't know what your thoughts are, but I think he's an excellent talent, Rogers.
I really am. I've been impressed with him. I think that even when Villa haven't been good, he's been consistent. I know what you mean, and whoever said it about he's not a goosebump signing, but I think he's the type of player that gives you goosebumps if he plays for your team. And I do think that we are a little snobby when it comes to how we perceive goosebump signings as Arsenal fans. Zubimendi has shone for international. I know and I understand how people feel about him regarding how is he going to, handle the Premier League, the physicality of it. Is he going to be able to kind of, play the English game, the demands, having been in Spain for so long. But I think also that he's a player that, those games at international level, some people see them as easy and simple. And I think that when you see a player and you understand what you're watching talent-wise, positionally-wise, what he does with the ball, what he does off the ball, I do think that, you know, he'd elevate our midfield like right away. And I think sometimes we don't look at it in that light. Is not everyone has to be a goosebump signing. You maybe need 2 goosebump signings this window, but you need players who will elevate your team immediately. And Zubimendi, for me, elevates our team immediately. And Morgan Rogers elevates our team immediately. Like when you start putting all these pieces together, look where we've suffered, Dan, for so long, right? This is why I think the whole starters finishers part of our conversation is our bench has been pathetic this last season. I mean, it's been bad, especially towards the latter half of the season. You look at Liverpool, you look at like the five forwards that they've had, Jota, Luis Diaz, you can say what you want about Darwin Núñez, but they still had him, Mo Salah, Gakpo. Like, that's prolific. We don't have that. We need that. And I think sometimes we poo-poo certain names that will elevate us to, you know, having a Jota off the bench, you know, having you being able to swap out a Luis Diaz and, you know, Gakpo. We don't have that enough. We have Martinelli and Trossard. Trossard to me was always the super sub. Martinelli, does he take you to the next level? I think he's great. For me, Martinelli coming off the bench with 20, 25 minutes to go, I think he'd be a stud. I'm just not sure that fans look at certain players in a certain way where you say to yourself, you want the $100 million Vert signing, but you've also got to look at Arsenal is who's going to elevate the team and who's going to be able to come on and change the game with 20, 25 minutes to go, Dan.
Look, this is something we've discussed previously, and I know that there's other content creators that have said this. How you finish the game is so important sometimes because you're starting 11 where you'll love, and you know you want your starting 11 to be fit for every game. But our starting 11 in Champions League games, we've looked to the bench for something, and we're like, I hope Ethan can do something because there ain't anything else. That ain't good enough, so we can't do that. Next season, I've got nothing wrong with throwing on the legs of Martinelli, bringing on Havertz for a different dimension through the middle or in whatever position you want. If he's fit, bringing on Jesus to give Saka a bit of a rest, or maybe you bring on Ethan. Yeah, in the middle, if he's there still, Thomas Partey comes on to see out a game. And then defensively, if you want to do something with Calafiori or Tommy Hasu, dare I say, if he's fit, Ben White, you've started to look now at a squad. But at the moment, those players that I've mentioned, majority of them have been starting in the first team because we haven't got anybody on the bench. So that's got to change.
Dan, what do you think, real quick? And I've been firing up your comments, I promised you, because last time I did the show on my phone, I couldn't get all your comments up, so I'm making up for it now, you guys. But this is how we roll at HS Central anyway. When was the last time we signed a proper player that was legit getting everyone excited apart from Declan? We need more of those players now more than ever. For me, it's Alexis Sanchez. I don't know about you.
Other than Declan Rice, who I don't think was as exciting as some. I thought he was excellent signing, don't get me wrong. But when you sign the West Ham captain, you don't get like, oh my God, this is incredible, marquee signing. He was a hell of a lot of money and he was absolutely brilliant signing. But the three that I would say that are marquee are Mesut Ozil, Alexis Sanchez and Aubameyang. And they all come from Arsene Wenger. Mikel Arteta has not signed a marquee signing yet. And I hope, like in the next two names that I give you, that they come in and we do get marquee signings this summer.
Let's rock and roll, Dan. Give it to the squaddies. Hand it to them on a plate.
I mean, the front three is probably the one that everyone wants to look at, right? We've gone through the back line. We've gone through the midfield. Saka is the one that 100% starts on the right-hand side. He's star boy. I've got no problem with his hamstring personally. I do think that he's had his time, and I do think the operation's different now, and it's not like old. I don't think he's going to be a Hazard or an Owen. I do personally feel like that will be proven to be the case this coming season, and I think that he'll be good. However, we do need to look after him. We can't be flogging him like we have. We can't play another 5 years every single game for every single cup competition, right? So he starts 100%. And then we go across now to what I think is going to be an exciting two positions. These are the two that I would absolutely love us to sign. And the first one is our left winger, which is Rodrigo. I have to see this happen if he's available. So this would be a marquee signing. This would be one that would give me goosebumps. This would be one that would give you the hairs of your neck, the goosebumps, the excitement, the jumping for joy, the wow, the let's get him on the back of the shirt. This, for me, would be the one. He's a massive upgrade on any other player that we're linked with on the left-hand side. He's better than Nico Williams. He's better than Lookman. He's better than Semenyo. He's better than Eze. He's better than any other left winger that Arsenal have had in the last few years, including Martinelli and Trossard. This is a huge upgrade. This is a wow signing. And this would be one that I look at from Arteta and Berta and say, wow, thank you, well done. Now, I don't actually think it's as unrealistic as some people think. Listen, if he doesn't want to leave Real Madrid, there's not much you can do other than one thing. Stick a bid in anyway. There's 100 million euros. What you're saying, which is about 85 million pounds. That's what we need to do. Show ambition, because the people that say, "Oh, we want Nico Williams because he's 50 million or whatever," I don't care how much players are. Go and get the ones that are the best available. We missed out already on Kvaratskhelia. Rodrigo should be, if he wants to leave, which there's rumours he does, because Vinny Jr. and Mbappe are playing ahead of him and he doesn't want to play on the right-hand side. There's a left wing position for Arsenal there. Go and get him. This would excite me, Soph. This one would.
This would be a statement signing. I know Gunnar Russ is saying he's too dear, move on. But, you know, people thought that we wouldn't pay 100 million for Declan Rice, and we did. And we're already getting ROI on that. Unfortunately, we couldn't get to the promised land this year, but my goodness, Declan stepped up against the kings of Europe with two scorching, beautiful, crazy free kicks. And we've definitely had a return on investment with Declan. The icing on the cake will be winning something, but there is no reason why Arsenal, other than financial obligations, restrictions, Dan, you know, balance the book, sell, buy. I'm not into the finance part of football as much, but having seen the club fork out 100 million, what I said on the show was that if you pay 100 million for Declan in midfield, you got to have the 100 million pound player in defense. And I think we do have that in Saliba, right? We didn't pay that for him, but if he went on the market, he'd be worth tuppence or two. Then you've got that 100 million pound player in midfield in Declan Rice. Now you need your 100 million pound forward, right? Whether that's down the middle, whether that's left or right. We know that Saka would go for $1 gazillion. That's how you elevate the team. But that's a world-class player you're signing. That's how you win championships. So that goes back to what I was saying. Players who elevate the team mixed with players who will win you championships. Declan Rice scores those free kicks against Real Madrid. We didn't have any more X factors to help us against PSG, right, Dan? Otherwise, we win that tie, we go through. If we have 2 or 3 more game-changing type of players. And that's the difference between us, between Liverpool. I mean, maybe not Man City this season, but it has been the difference between us and them in previous seasons.
Listen, this is an absolute must if we can make it happen. What would frustrate me is if he becomes available and he doesn't come to Arsenal, because this is an absolute must. I don't mind if he stays at Madrid and we move elsewhere, we go for another target. Yeah. But if Rodrigo is available, he must come to Arsenal. Ahead of Chelsea, ahead of Newcastle, ahead of Manchester United, ahead of anybody in England. We have to get him and we have to make it happen if he wants out of Real Madrid. And that's right. Simple as that.
How are you rounding up your forward line, Dan?
The most spoken about topic in the last 6 weeks. Sesko, Gyökeres, Isak, Watkins, Osimhen, Hugo Ekitike. Who do we go with? Well, I think we're going to go with Sesko, if I'm honest. I still believe that. I think the club have always wanted him. And that doesn't fill me with joy it's very underwhelming, deflating. So the one that I would go with would be Victor Gyökeres, mate. I think Victor Gyökeres has to come. When I look at the scenario of Gyökeres, Rodrigo and Saka, it excites me. I think what that does is it allows us to have a little bit of everything. You've got the quality on the right and left, but you've got the absolute bagsman and killer in the middle. I've not spent 5 years and 4 phases and win the dog and light bulbs and God knows what to have a 13-goal striker from the Bundesliga up front. They ain't going to fill me with nothing, mate. Let me tell you that. This guy in Portugal has scored over 50 goals in the last consecutive season. Season before that, 50 goals. Season before that, 35 goals at Coventry, which people laugh at. But we've just been speaking about Morgan Rogers from the Championship and Adam Wharton and Elise, and the list goes on from Championship players. Victor Gyökeres is the guy. I would be devastated if he ends up leaving and going to Manchester United or Chelsea over Arsenal. Sesko, I think he'll be all right. But I think Havertz will start. Sesko ain't starting for Arsenal. Havertz is. Sesko is being moulded into the team. Gyökeres starts every single game. And balls for us, in my opinion. Bags for us. He is the less of the risks of the two players. Because one of them's got 13 goals in the Bundesliga. Which Marmoush got more. And he left, when? January for Man City? Patrick Schick for Leverkusen got more. Yeah? I think Mateta and João Pedro and all these guys got more goals than Sesko in the Premier League. Would you want any of them as your proper number 9? Would you want Ollie Watkins as your proper number 9, prolific number 9? Or would you want Sesko? Well, Ollie Watkins got more goals than Sesko in the Premier League, which is a harder league than Bundesliga. So I'm very, very questionable over Sesko. I've not been impressed by what I see. So for me, it's Gyökeres. He has to come to Arsenal, mate.
I said on the show, I can't remember if it was to Sammy Mockbell. I was like, why can't we buy both?
Yep.
Super ambition. Because when you look at, all right, I think with Sesko, they're trying to get a bit cute now, with the money. And everyone, when players are in demand, they get a bit cute, don't they, Dan? They're like, I don't care what your release clause says, Gyökeres. I don't know what's going on there. There just seems to be something. There's two sides to every story, and then there's the truth. And I know that there are fans that also think that, well, Darwin Núñez was the Gyökeres once upon a time, and he went to Liverpool and flopped. I actually still think there's a really good player in there with Darwin Núñez. Just think he was overwhelmed. And it's not easy putting that Liverpool shirt on. Kev always used to say even about the Arsenal shirt as well, Dan. But yeah, I mean, I think Sesko, 6'5", he's very versatile. I think that he's got a lot of football in him. And he is a typical Mikel Arteta signing. That is not an Andrea Berta signing. Gyökeres feels more like a Berta signing. But it's not guaranteed that he's going to be able to translate that into the Premier League. And nothing is a guarantee. Every transfer is a risk. It's like playing the stock markets. You could lose your ass one day and you could fill the coffers the next. So, but I think your rogue team is actually realistic. You didn't go too crazy rogue.
No, I tried to. I mean, look, if going rogue is getting Rodrigo, Gyökeres, and Rogers in, look, going rogue should be we want Isak and Gyökeres, and we want Rodrigo, and we want Brian Mbeumo, and we want Eze and Rogers and Zubimendi. People to be like, whoa, calm down, man. We ain't got £800 million here. For me, I think the one that was rogue, I think has a better balance to midfield with Rice, Rogers, and Ødegaard. I think he's got a best front three in Gyökeres, Rogers, and Saka. And you keep the back line with Nuno Mendes added at left back. I don't think that's a horrendous, oh my God, summer we can't afford. Nuno Mendes would probably cost around about 80 million, I imagine. You probably got the same for Rogers. That's 160, 210 with Zubimendi added for 50 in there as well. And then obviously through the middle, you've got Gyökeres and Rodrigo, which is about another 150. So you're spending 350 million, which is what apparently Josh Kroenke says we've got. So go do it. Simple, isn't it? Just told you how easy it is. Go do it, Arsenal.
You know, I have a feeling, though, that when the season starts, Mikel will want Havertz to be his guy up front.
Yeah.
There's something about that. I don't know. We'll see. But we really need to invest heavily. Once you started doing all the maths, I was like, hold on a second. This really is rogue. I love it, Dan. Good stuff from you. So, and then on the bench, you'd have players like Martinelli, Trossard. You keeping everyone? You're going to sell Trossard? You're going to sell Martinelli? You're going to balance the books, director of football? Real quick before we let you go.
Yeah, so I did a keep sell bench, so I won't go too far into it with AFTV because it's not dropped yet, and I promise Robbie.
Okay, all right, then leave that.
There are people that I would sell, but let's be honest with yourself, they're quite the obvious ones, really. The likes of Sterling and Neto have gone. I would probably get rid of the likes of Cole Hine and Lokonga and Tavares and Fabi Vieira. These are the sort of players that need to leave Arsenal for sure.
Yeah. All right. Brilliant stuff. I think it's been fun. I'm enjoying this. I'm going to like this. A few people wrote they can't wait to see Kenny Ken's rogue team.
Yeah. Absolutely. It'd be good to see.
Potsy, what's going on with the channel? Are you taking time off? Are you still? I still see some stuff.
Yeah, no, still plugging away, mate. I tried to do a show a day. I've not been well, obviously, so I've tried to do what I can. I am going to be on later tonight, around about 9 o'clock-ish is what I'm doing at the moment, just daily sort of Arsenal transfer stuff at the moment. And I'm bringing some of the panel shows back this week. So we'll get a couple of panels together. They won't be the old style panel shows. There'll be random panel shows, but we'll get some of the guys that people like that are regulars on the channel on talking all things football and transfers. So yeah, it will start picking up again. And we're getting closer to 50k people. So make sure you come over and hit the like and subscribe.
Brilliant stuff. And you can follow Dan here. Make sure you subscribe to Football's 12th Man. Gives a little bit of everything. He's like a Greek meze. There's a little dish for everybody on Potsy's Football's 12th Man. Thanks a lot for your time, Potsy. We really appreciate it, as do the squaddies. Make sure you subscribe to Dan's channel. Make sure you subscribe if you're just popping in and listening tonight to Highbury Squad. And please do go subscribe on Apple Podcasts and Spotify on Highbury Squad's audio platforms. Would really, really appreciate that, kids. It's good to be back. It's good to be back with my good friend Dan here. Make sure that you guys stay safe, no matter where in the world you might be right now. A lot of stuff going on. Let's stick together. And we'll see you tomorrow night at 9 o'clock UK time, where Elliot from Arsenal Vision will be sharing his real versus rogue. Until then, squaddies, don't forget to tell your loved ones you love them. At ease, at ease.
Mind the gap between the train and the platform. Please stand clear of the discussion doors. The next stop is Highbury Squad.